Hi, I'm Brian Kellerman, co-founder and Chief Food Safety Officer at Kellerman Consulting, and you are watching our video series on a culture of food safety. In this video, we want to dive into some operational specifics and start to flesh out the in-the-facility actions that bring the core values, key metrics, and structure directly into each day of operations. Let's start with defining what constitutes a culture of food safety meeting, and here the definition is really quite elastic, and you might be achieving those requirements currently. A meeting that achieves the minimum requirement to be considered a culture of food safety meeting is one where management is involved, where our core values are assessed, where we are planning on getting feedback from supervisors and operational employees, or where we are evaluating feedback that has already been received. As long as these elements are discussed as part of any meeting, and as long as there is a written audio or video recording of that discussion, that is considered proof of a culture of food safety meeting. One quick note here is that proof of these meetings may be required as part of a voluntary certification audit, such as a third-party GMP certification audit or an SQF, BRC, or FSSC 22000 program. However, these culture of food safety meetings are not currently required for facilities that are only under inspection by the U.S. food safety agencies, such as the FSIS or FDA. Now that we have given a basic introduction to a culture of food safety meeting, let's look at several types of meetings that food production and handling facilities have, and simple adjustments we can make to get them up to the required level of a culture of food safety meeting. It is common for facilities to have daily production meetings, led by the general manager or plant manager, that the operations personnel are required to attend. Other types of common meetings are leadership meetings, committee meetings, training sessions, improvement discussions, or emergency meetings following significant events in the company's operations. All of these may be brought up to the level of a culture of food safety meeting as long as we reference core values and key metrics, as well as evaluating structure and getting feedback from employees on the facility's ability to maintain worker and food safety. It's important to keep the organizational structure when performing culture of food safety meetings, and to facilitate that, operational meetings should involve leadership representation, and leadership meetings should involve operations representation. Whether you choose to have leadership meetings with operations folks present, or whether you choose to have a high-level manager participate in regularly scheduled operations meetings is up to you. But we cannot stress enough that to do this right, we need to have participation up and down the organization. Site leadership needs to be at least informed of these meetings and their results, and this may be in the form of an email or an in-person discussion, or better yet, leadership can and should sit in on all culture of food safety meetings. In our ebook, we discussed linking administrative office activities to production and setting these meetings up correctly and following through on them. A good rule of thumb is that the site leadership should be able to see a pattern of meetings across each month and throughout the year that achieves a culture of food safety level, and the records of those meetings should be readily available. Only leadership can make sure the organizational structure is functioning properly, and only leadership can resolve personality or political conflict within the organization. It is by scheduling these culture of food safety meetings that we open the door to making sure leadership is on top of how employees, supervisors, and managers are interacting to meet the operational goals. Leadership involvement in unifying operations and building out the organizational structure is really required to get sustained success in operations, and there is no way around that. Almost all successful food businesses have high leadership involvement in all culture of food safety meetings. So, how do we integrate the culture of food safety actions within meetings, such as a production meeting or a leadership meeting, where we are trying to be concise and effective as part of getting through the workday? We don't want to bog people down with drawn-out meetings, But we can add a few questions to one or more of these meetings each week to tie to a larger culture of food safety and to assure sustainability of the program. The way that Kellerman Consulting recommends addressing culture of food safety actions is to have a set of questions and a schedule for asking those questions. Culture of food safety questions or reports should connect first to core values, and there should be a review of key metrics. We don't need to be mechanical or awkward about this, but we can present our key metrics during meetings, and these would be metrics such as all pathogen tests were negative, all pallets were stacked according to customer requirements, or all shipments went out on time and arrived on time. There can also be any site-specific metrics that you have determined. Whatever those metrics are, we just need to have leadership or their representatives report on trends for those metrics. If you can prepare a quick chart or graph, this would be best practice. You can also ask for status updates in the meetings if that information isn't prepared in advance. One thing to note is that "I don't know" is not acceptable as a response in the discussion of key metrics. The absence of such information should be addressed promptly. For core values, charts and graphs are less likely to be feasible, but here leadership can ask questions specific to core values, such as 1. Have core values been properly communicated to employees? 2. Have we maintained a high degree of cleanliness? Or 3. Are we being responsive to customer requests? Alternatively, with core values, we may not want to ask questions, and we can choose to provide a quick report from leadership. While we don't want to call out specific employees or embarrass anyone, we can offer general findings about observations within the facility that address core values and let our team know whether they are meeting values or where improvements are required. One concept we have laid out here, and which will be a theme that we come back to over and over again in future videos, is the scheduling of actions in order to create a sustainable structure. Now, in the last clip, I mentioned scheduling the culture of food safety questions within meetings, and that is one example. But we need to expand that to the scheduling of actions. When we talk about scheduling, I'm not referring to a day of the week or a calendar date, but rather to a defined frequency, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly. We have to determine the schedule ahead of time, and we have to evaluate whether we are keeping to that schedule. So here we are talking about the culture of food safety meetings themselves, but as we drill into parts of operations, we start to talk about scheduled cleanings, scheduled trainings, scheduled maintenance, production schedules, and improvement project schedules. If what I'm discussing is hard to imagine in your facility, it's a red flag that time urgently needs to be devoted to examining the values, metrics, and structure within your organization. Lastly, a way to check the effectiveness of the culture of food safety meetings is to create follow-up action. If you uncover unsatisfactory findings for core values or key metrics, there should be written records of corrections or follow-ups to address them. If these are core and key issues, this should show up very clearly in the reaction. As we move to discussing corrective actions and preventive action, or CAPA programs, in a later video series, you are going to see how these culture of food safety activities directly tie into CAPA activities, and hopefully the efforts we are putting forth at the start will greatly simplify those programs. Where employees are maintaining your values, there should be some reward system or at least a message of encouragement. It is common to see Employee of the Month honors in facilities with a preferred parking spot or other perks provided for excellence, and those are great for our culture of food safety. However, to get to the desired level of a culture of food safety, you should be striving for more advanced results-based actions. It may be feasible to bring in a staff meal or to let folks off a bit early on the weekends, or offer other rewards that tie directly to your core values and key metrics. When you reward folks for providing feedback, you can expect more of that feedback in return, which is crucial to making sure the culture of safety stays in place.